tears of anger and agony in Uttar Pradesh. A mother and a sister cry out for justice in Kanpur. Ransom of 30 lakhs paid after abducted youth was killed. Did the Uttar Pradesh Police facilitate payment of ransom? Yogi Adityanath's police in the dock. Is this Ram Rajya?
Also on the show, India today exposes China's deceit at Pangong So, using satellite images that expose China's gun positions and defenses between finger 5 and finger 8. India is strengthening our defenses to stare the dragon down.
China's deceit at Pangong So exposed by satellite images. China pretends to pull back but carves out gun positions. Satellite pictures expose a makeshift jetty for Chinese speedboats. India strengthens the armed forces in Ladakh. Fighters, bombs and drones. Can India checkmate China? That's our top focus on India First.
We'll also get you details about how India intends to checkmate China. Action-packed 30 minutes. I'm Gaurav Sawant. Let's get started with the headlines on India First. Unprecedented scenes in Rajasthan. Chief Minister Ashok Gehlot camp MLAs stage a dharna at Raj Bhavan. Demand that the governor call an assembly session. This after Rajasthan High Court restrained the speaker from taking action on disqualification notice against the Sachin Pilot camp MLAs. India crosses the 13 lakh mark with another day high of 49,000 COVID-19 cases. Southern states, Tamil Nadu and Andhra record the highest tally. Kerala Chief Minister denies a complete lockdown despite a surge. First dose of indigenous COVID vaccine, Covaxin, administered to a 30-year-old man at the All India Institute of Medical Sciences in the national capital. The volunteer will be monitored closely for the next 7 days. Bihar continues to face the flood fury. Several villages in Sitamarhi district inundated after a dam near the India-Nepal border is breached. Assam too battles the deluge. Over 70 lakh people displaced. Our top focus story is from Uttar Pradesh, where the police are in the eye of a storm after a young man was abducted and allegedly killed by his kidnappers in Kanpur. What is worse, the family has now alleged that the police told them to pay the ransom of 30 lakh rupees, apparently after the youth had already been killed. Yogi Adityanath had promised a Ram Rajya. But what's happening in Uttar Pradesh Police and in the state today is a far cry from that promise.
A lab technician was abducted on June 22nd and killed by his abductors. The family say they sold off family jewels to raise 30 lakh rupee ransom demanded by the abductors and insist the police was witness to payment of the ransom.
पुलिस तो ये भी कह रही थी कि बच्चा है तुम्हारा होगा जीवित? हाँ, पुलिस ने लिए कि किडनैप ने लिए, दोनों के बीच में है पैसे। ये मेरा बच्चा 25 तारीख को मारा गया, 26 तारीख को फेंका गया, ये 29 तारीख को फिरौती का पैसा का फोन कैसे आया? हाँ, झूठ बोल रहे थे क्या?
Sanjeet's sister blames the UP police. She insists the police told the family to pay the ransom but failed to track the abductors.
मोबाइल नहीं ला पाई, उसके कपड़े नहीं ला पाई। जांच चल रही, क्या जांच चल रही है पुलिस की?
मुकदमा लिखा जाए।
क्या कर रही है पुलिस? अभी कुछ नहीं कर पाई, बस ये बता दिया इस दुनिया में नहीं है। अगर पुलिस शुरू से एक्शन लेती तो मेरा भाई, हमें अपना भाई ना खोना पड़ता।
In fact, the video of Aparna Gupta, the superintendent of Kanpur police, went viral, trying to explain why the police was unable to chase the ransom-filled bag when it was dropped at a pre-decided location.
देखिए, ये गलत बातें हैं। पुलिस के सामने अगर पैसा दिया गया और अपहरण वाला नहीं आ पाया, ये बहुत ही खेद का विषय है। ऐसा प्रैक्टिकली इम्पॉसिबल है और ये सरासर गलत आरोप पुलिस पे लगाए जा रहे हैं। पुलिस इसमें पूरी मेहनत से काम कर रही है।
Police now claim they have arrested 5 accused in the case, including one of the 2 women allegedly involved in the abduction. Police claim Sanjeet tried to run away from the custody of his kidnappers on June 26th, and that is when the abductors strangled him and threw away his body in the Pandu River.
26 जून की रात्रि में जब अपहृत व्यक्ति ने भागने का प्रयास किया तो उसके पश्चात इन लोगों ने निर्णय लिया कि इस व्यक्ति को मार दिया जाए और 27 तारीख की सुबह ही इस व्यक्ति की इन्होंने गला दबा करके हत्या कर दी। 29 तारीख को पहली बार इन लोगों ने इनके परिजनों से फिरौती की मांग की। पुलिस ने उस समय एक जाल बिछा करके इन अपहृतकर्ताओं को झांसे में लेकर के गिरफ्तार करने का प्रयास किया, किंतु किसी कारणवश वो ऑपरेशन फेल हो गया।
After a massive outrage, UP Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath ordered the suspension of Aparna Gupta, an IPS officer and SP Kanpur, along with 4 other officials, including the SHO of Janta Nagar Police Station.
But the big question remains, where has the ransom amount of rupees 30 lakh gone? So right now the investigation is going in this case, but the family members are clearly blaming that it is due to the negligence of the Kanpur police. Sanjeet Yadav was killed after being abducted because the top police officials failed to take timely action. In Kanpur with camera person Harish Kanpal, Nilanshu Shukla for India Today.
But this murder of Sanjeet Yadav in Kanpur is not an isolated incident. There has been a spurt in cases of crime, murder and kidnapping, raising serious issues about law and order situation in Uttar Pradesh. Take, for example, cases like Vikas Dubey, where police are in the eye of a storm for colluding with criminals, or in the case of journalist Vikram Joshi, where police inaction raised a storm.
Uttar Pradesh is once again in the news for all the wrong reasons. A raid to nab a criminal on 3rd July in Kanpur led to the murder of 8 policemen, including a deputy superintendent and 3 sub-inspectors. The man behind the massacre, Vikas Dubey, was nabbed and then gunned down in a controversial encounter. But the Dubey case brought to fore the deep police gangster nexus in Uttar Pradesh. UP has witnessed a spurt in crimes. Vikram Joshi, a journalist, succumbed to bullet injuries after an attack on him by some people in Ghaziabad. Joshi's family says he was attacked over a complaint he had filed recently against a man for harassing his niece. The rising crime graph and the alleged police inaction has given fodder to the opposition to train its guns on the Yogi government.
जंगल राज कायम हो गया उत्तर प्रदेश में। ये जंगल राज नहीं तो और क्या है। कभी पत्रकारों की हत्या होती है, पुलिस वालों की हत्या होती है, आम आदमी की हत्या होती है। उत्तर प्रदेश अपराधियों का चारागाह बन गया है।
From the rape and murder of a 24-year-old in Unnao in 2019 to the murder of an Apple executive Vivek Tiwari in 2018. What has been exposed is the inaction of police.
Those who are manufacturing illicit weapons, and that would include, from my own experience, there are those in the police department also who have been caught red-handed making country-made weapons. Then there are those armorers of the former princely states who are now out of job, but they are excellent gunsmiths who are making weapons.
The police-politician nexus is perhaps most visible in Uttar Pradesh. The recent rise in crimes in India's most populous state is alarming. More so because it's the common man who is hit by it the most. Bureau Report, India Today.
And news just coming in, a businessman's son has been kidnapped, and this time it's in Gonda in Uttar Pradesh. The kidnappers have made a ransom call. Police and the special task force, we are told, they've launched a manhunt. Meanwhile, former Chief Minister Akhilesh Yadav, he's targeted the Yogi Adityanath government. He said even children are now unsafe in Yogi Adityanath, Uttar Pradesh. I quickly now want to cut across to India Today's Neelanshu Shukla for more on this story. Neelanshu, what information do we have about this abduction?
So, today in the morning, usually Chief Minister Yogi Adityanath every day chairs the meeting on the daily COVID-19 situation in the state. But today,
I'll try and reestablish that line with Neelanshu in just a moment. But as we reestablish that line, let me quickly bring in Mr. Vikram Singh, former Director General of the Uttar Pradesh Police. Sir, you've headed the UP Police. Yogi Adityanath had said criminals will fear being in UP. We were promised a Ram Rajya, but criminals here seem to be acting with impunity, with absolutely no fear of the law. What's gone wrong in the state, sir?
Mr. Gaurav Sawant, I think the CM gave very clear and unambiguous signals that there will be zero tolerance to criminals. Unfortunately, these instructions are not being carried out at the lower level for obvious reasons of complicity, corruption, and inaction. It is a disease that has caught on for the last 10 years, and I don't think they have been able to shake it off by poor inspections and poor guidance to the lower staff. In fact, there is no control over mafia, the crime syndicates, and the organized criminals, and that is why there has been an absurd and a sudden increase in heinous crime. As you said, Vikram Joshi's murder in Ghaziabad, the Gonda kidnapping case, Vikas Dubey's case is an example how not to do your things and how to keep your house in order. There are inside jobs, and everybody in Chaubepur police station was in the payroll of the gangster Vikas Dubey. If this is the state of policing, I'm appalled and shocked and aghast at how are things going to improve. The Kanpur example is another sordid story where the ransom money, the police have the capacity and the cheek to say that the 30 lakhs were actually fake currency notes. Then what happened to the 30 lakhs given by the deceased family to do a dummy drop and then ensure the release? Obviously, somebody has pocketed that 30 lakhs.
Oh, absolutely.
And the suspicion is on the police, and the police.
That's the point I want to come to. And is suspension enough? Suspension of an IPS officer, Aparna Gupta, because in the Kanpur case, the family alleges that police told them to pay the ransom. In which state does the police tell people to pay ransom to criminals and the money is gone? The criminals had apparently already killed Sanjeet Yadav. Police have neither been able to recover the money or the boy. This isn't just inefficiency. This points to something far more sinister, sir.
Obviously, this is not inefficiency. This is corruption to the core and complicity. I have standardized the operations under these circumstances. And as you very rightly said, you're supposed to put everybody in the surveillance, and you should have known what the gangsters are thinking about. And if you're not blissfully unaware, you had no business to ask the complainant to dish out 30 lakhs of their hard-earned money, and then you had it wasted away. And today you have the cheek and the gall to tell them that it was fake money. Then what happened to the original? This never happens. It is not part of the SOP. And I'm absolutely scandalized and shocked to hear the brazen defense given by the police officers there. And yes, suspension is not a punishment. You have to be cruel to be kind under these circumstances. You have to dismiss at least the SO, the chowki in charge, and the constable who were there without putting in an adequate cordon and an adequate picket and wasted the 30 lakhs hard-earned money of the complainant's family.
Also poor leadership, and in that case, should action not be taken against the leaders in this case? But Mr. Vikram Singh, before I let you go, I want to understand from you this sudden spurt in crime, and not just in Uttar Pradesh. We've also seen attempted abductions in Delhi and several other parts of the country. What do you make of this sudden spurt in crime?
Corona epidemic could be a contributory cause, but the police department cannot absolve itself of the responsibility, Mr. Sawant, that they cannot guard the people in their charge. It is their prime job. Identify 30% of your strength only for criminal intelligence. Poor criminal intelligence leads to a spurt in crime, including crime like this, because everybody has a cash crunch, and therefore high-profile murders, contract killings, kidnapping for ransom have indeed shot up because even the crime syndicates are feeling the cash crunch. And the poor criminal intelligence of my department probably explains why the police is not being able to account for or reach to the jugular of those. These shoddy encounters do no service to us or to society. Do identify the right man, the right mafia, and go after him. Killing mosquitoes and cockroaches and earthworms will not set anything in order. Kill the man-eating tigers.
You're absolutely right, and we will track that story. As always, Mr. Vikram Singh, former Director General of the Uttar Pradesh Police, many thanks for joining me here on India First. I now want to shift focus to what's happening at the line of actual control. Now, in the middle of this major military conflict with China, India has placed an order for the acquisition of Hammer missiles from France. The Hammer missiles will help boost India's capabilities to take out targets in high-altitude areas, especially in eastern Ladakh. So when the Rafales come in on the 29th, they will be coming in with the Hammer missiles, the Scalp and the Meteor missiles. Air-to-air and air-to-ground missiles are already here. The Hammer missiles also will hammer home the point that India will not cede an inch of territory.
In 5 days, India's first Rafales will land at their home base in Ambala. Their game-changing weapons have already arrived, with pilots fully operational and trained in their use. And now, just days before the super-modern jets arrive, and as the India-China disengagement in eastern Ladakh grinds to a troubling halt, the Indian Air Force has decided to exercise emergency purchase powers to add another weapon to its Rafale jets. The French Hammer is a combat-proven precision-guided munition kit that takes dumb bombs and converts them into smart standoff strike weapons, capable of hitting reinforced targets with devastating accuracy from high altitudes. The Hammer, operational on combat-deployed French Rafales, is an accurate strike weapon with a range of up to 60 kilometers, has the advantage of accuracy even from very high-altitude launch, and can easily destroy reinforced positions, including subterranean bunkers. The Hammer system has been used for pinpoint strikes in Afghanistan and Libya. The Hammer is made by French company Safran, the same conglomerate that makes the Rafale's M88 jet engines. In 2016, just months before India signed the deal for 36 Rafale jets, Safran entered into a joint venture partnership with an Indian company to manufacture the Hammer system in India. But the Hammer kits, ordered under emergency rules by the Indian Air Force, will likely come directly from France. By choosing to acquire the Hammer weapon, the Air Force has exercised an option that was made available to it back in 2016. At that time, India had decided to integrate the Israeli Spice weapon with its Rafales. That's right, the same family of precision strike weapons that were used in the 2019 Balakot airstrikes in Pakistan. decision to now acquire the comparable hammer system has emerged as a blip on some political radars. Opposition MP Manish Tiwari, for instance, has gone public wondering why the hammer has been chosen. Sources tell India Today the integration of the spice weapon is still a way off on the Indian Rafales, and therefore a pressing need for a credible precision strike weapon, especially in the current India-China scenario in eastern Ladakh, has compelled the purchase of the hammer on an emergency basis. The hammer systems, once ordered, will be delivered from France within months. Bureau Report, India Today.
The US-China Cold War 2.0 is intensifying. So after the Chinese consulate in Houston was shut down on charges of spying, Beijing hit back, ordering the closure of the American consulate in Chengdu. Why did China choose Chengdu? Because China suspects that this was one US consulate that had an impact in Tibet. US Secretary of State Mike Pompeo intensified his attack on China. In a blistering attack, he called China a Frankenstein's monster.
As tension between the world's two most powerful nations continues to rise, the US launched yet another stinging attack on China.
President Nixon once said he feared he had created a Frankenstein by opening the world to the CCP. And here we are. We must induce China to change in more creative and assertive ways because Beijing's actions threaten our people and our prosperity.
Pompeo, in a no-holds-barred attack, termed Chinese leaders as tyrants. He accused Beijing of lying, cheating, and stealing its way to power and prosperity.
If we want to have a free 21st century and not the Chinese century of which Xi Jinping dreams, the old paradigm of blind engagement with China simply won't get it done. We must not continue it, and we must not return to it. As President Trump has made very clear, we need a strategy that protects the American economy and indeed our way of life. The free world must triumph over this new tyranny.
A furious China blamed the Trump administration for further straining the already tense bilateral ties.
The current situation in China-US relations is not what China desires to see, and the United States is responsible for all this. We once again urge the United States to immediately retract its wrong decision and create necessary conditions for bringing the bilateral relationship back on track.
China on Friday ordered the US to close down its consulate in Chengdu in retaliation to Washington's decision to shut the Chinese mission in Houston. Chengdu is an important diplomatic outpost for the US, considering that it's close to Tibet.
Some personnel in the United States Consulate General in Chengdu have been engaged in activities inconsistent with their identities and interfered in China's internal affairs and harmed China's security interests.
Chinese-US relations have soured amid a mounting array of conflicts, including trade, the handling of coronavirus pandemic, Hong Kong, and face-off over South China Sea. Bureau Report, India Today.
India too seems to have decided to make China pay. In a major economic strike on Chinese business interests, the Narendra Modi government has changed trade rules, imposing restrictions on public procurement from countries that share a common border. The centre is also considering banning Chinese tech giants Huawei and ZTE. This clearly as the bye-bye Huawei chorus grows globally, and we'll track that story very closely. That is all I have time for on India First this evening. Have a wonderful weekend. We'll be back Monday night at 10:30.